Well, hello. Well, hello. Look at those graphics. Hi, everybody. I'm Jamar Nicholas. You may remember me from Baltimore Comic Con in real life, where you would always see me hanging out with my buddies at the Kids Love Comics Pavilion. And I'm the creator of Leon and the Leon series of books now at home at Scholastic Graphics. So it's great to see everybody. And I have a really special show for us today. I'm going to hang out and talk to my best bud, Kazu Kibuishi, and we're going to talk about it's like to be a cartoonist and an author. And I'm going to ask him a bunch of questions he's heard a million times, but we'll have a lot of fun. So let's bring him in. Hey, Kazu.
Hey, Jamar.
How are you?
I'm doing good. Hey, and congratulations on becoming a part of the graphics family. I'm so happy about that.
Thank
So
you,
good,
brother.
so
Thank you.
so good to have you on the team.
Oh, I'm excited. Yeah, it's just begun. So
Uh-huh.
I hope to have a very long career ahead of me at Scholastic. So,
Thank you.
Kazu, thank you. Kazu, thanks for coming on with me today. The Baltimore Comic Con gave me a really cool assignment to talk to some of my buds about their careers, and I figured why not reach out to you because you've always been so nice and willing to give up your time, and we have a good energy together. So I figured I'd ask you some questions, and
Yeah, let's do this.
I've called this 10 questions with Kazoo. Now, I don't know if we're going to get through 10, but we'll see
Okay.
what we can do. All right, so I'm going to ask these questions kind of like if I was a young person again, and I got to like meet a famous person like you, Kazoo, and ask some questions without shaking and getting all nervous. I would come up with at least these good questions.
Okay.
All right, so let's just start. So this is kind of a twofold question. A little bit about you coming of age as an artist and what you're using right now on your table. So the first question is, did you always draw, Kazu? And what are your favorite art tools?
Um, I think all kids have drawn to start, right? So
Hmm.
I just didn't stop. So I think we all started drawing.
Hmm.
And that's how we were communicating. And then people moved on to different things. And I'm the last kid out of the pool. Whenever there was like a birthday party, the parents had to come get me because I just wouldn't stop doing the thing. That's how it's been for everything. Even comics. I think I wasn't into comics as much as my friends were, and I just wanted to hang out with my friends. So I started
Yeah.
drawing them, and I just didn't get out of the pool. I just kept going. Once I figured like I'm like already sitting down, I'm drawing the cartoons. I'm like, well, might as well go all the way.
Mm,
So that's how it started. But
that's
what are my
great.
favorite art tools? I like pencil and paper.
Mm, okay, nothing fancy, right?
Nothing fancy, just pencil, paper, eraser. Yeah.
Cool. All right. Our second question is, and you haven't seen these, so you have no idea what I'm going
Oh,
to
okay.
ask you. Uh, did you do other things when you were young, like play sports?
Oh, absolutely. I am an athlete. It's one of the reasons I didn't want to draw comics. I was like really afraid of the idea of sitting at a desk. I just thought, no, I'm
Mm,
not going to be a desk jockey of any kind. There's no way. I
mm,
even considered I thought about, oh man, maybe I could be like a smoke jumper or something. I wanted
wow.
to do something, like just be a firefighter or help the world somehow, but to be out on doing action adventure stuff. And then I saw like making of stuff for live action movies and
Mm,
saw how much work it was where you're outside in the elements and you're shooting these crazy scenes that's imaginary.
mm,
And even though that's not really what I felt comfortable producing creatively, that kind of work, I thought maybe I should go into film because at least that takes care of the adventure side as well as the creative side.
mm,
And so sports has been a big part of my life. I was a very good baseball player as a kid. I was good at tennis. I surfed and skated, and I'd say now like I mostly mountain bike.
mhm.
I'm a pretty high level mountain biker, and a good snowboarder as well.
Wow.
And so I yeah, and now I just started wake surfing, which because I have no real waves around here,
Hmm.
so now I'm just surfing the wake of boats, and
Wow,
it is so much fun. I love it. Yeah.
that's amazing. Um, our next question is: were your parents there's a typo there. Were your parents supportive of your decision to be an artist?
uh, yeah, actually, um, I'm Japanese American, so typically, well, I mean, as with most Asian American kids, I expected to be a doctor because my mom told me that's what I was going to be when I was
Hmm.
a kid.
Hmm.
I just
Hmm.
just told her, yeah, I'll be a doctor. Just make her happy, and that's all good.
Yeah.
And so I started drawing a lot when I was a kid because I thought I wasn't going to do it anymore when I was older. So I was trying to get it out of my system. But by doing that, I ended up becoming good enough that people were asking me to do it for a living. Um, but ever since my parents saw that seemed to be the direction I was going in, they were 100% behind it from the start. So they
Mm.
never really, tried to take me off of the track. In fact, my mom was trying really hard to like help me, and I had to tell her to just back off
Yeah.
because it was sending me down different roads and like it wasn't the kinds of things that I was interested in. She was putting me in touch with certain teachers and people who were wanting to coach me through these things, and I wanted to do it on my own.
Mm-hmm.
And so I had to actually, I had to lie to her and say, I quit drawing comics, mom. And she was like so distraught. I was like, I quit. Cause like I had too many people asking me to draw their books or
Yeah. Wow.
work for them and, to be my mentor.
Hmm.
And as nice as all these people were, I wasn't interested in being somebody else's career opportunity. I wanted to stay in, control of the work that I'm going to do.
Hmm.
Uh, and in fact, this is actually one of the reasons I watch a lot of sports because I think that I think sports and art are essentially like the professionals in sports and art are essentially in the same line of business,
Hmm.
and we're all in the entertainment business.
Yeah.
So if you're an athlete, you're there to entertain. That's how the money comes in. And if
Right.
you're an artist, you're doing the same thing. So I look at athletes as models for how to manage life and career things because there's just so many more like highly focused, highly trained minds
Hmm.
operating in professional sports than in the arts, and that's because people perceive that there's more money there to be made.
Yeah. Hmm. Huh.
So, mhm.
Wow.
So
These are. Go ahead. Go ahead.
but yeah, but they were supportive. Yeah, they were my parents. Actually, here I'll share a funny anecdote from about my dad.
Okay.
So like a lot of people have their dads like giving them pressure to do certain things in their life and
Hmm.
everything. My dad, I mean, when he grew up, he was like in motorcycle gangs in Japan. I mean, he was
Wow.
basically in and around the yakuza and stuff. And he was a tough guy. Like when I had to get into physical altercations with him when we were kids and when I was a kid. And man, it's like going. It's like wrestling with a linebacker. I mean, he's huge,
Hmm.
and or just he's just so strong, like a really strong guy.
Yeah.
But he always told me like to just stay out of trouble.
Hmm.
So when I asked him about grades and stuff like that, he just said, just get C, just don't get F. And I'm like, okay.
I
He's
could
like,
do that.
and he's like, yeah,
All
stay out of jail. I was like, okay, stay out of jail, just get straight C's. Yeah,
right.
just don't be a troublemaker. And I feel like his low expectations allowed me to take agency over my success.
Mm.
I really
Wow.
I think he was a great dad. I mean, he's my
Yeah.
stepdad,
Yeah.
but he raised my brother and me really, really well.
Hmm.
And my brother and I always think back on it and go, man, all that stuff we thought like maybe he was like out of it about.
Yeah.
I think he's right. Like he was real, he was really. There's wisdom. There's wisdom there.
Hmm.
Like he might not have the big resume. He might not have the big degree. He might not sound like the most spectacularly intelligent person, but he has a lot of life experience
Yeah.
and he's rolled with a lot of punches and he's come out in a good place. And I think that all of that like made my brother and me a lot more humble, hardworking, just had better heads on our shoulders, I think. And we also didn't, feel like we were gonna fail him because we just already knew we were in control of our
Hmm.
destiny. Um,
Wow.
yeah, so that was good. So my dad Masa, good job.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Uh, All right, here's a different angle for you. Number four, kids all over the world love Amulet. What books fascinated you as a kid? What were you reading, Kazu, when you were little?
Jurassic Park. When we got that in like middle school, I think around that time, it was like it spread like wildfire,
Yeah.
yeah, and I was so jealous that the kids that were reading it in their class got to read it in their class. I didn't get to read it in my class. I went and read it, but I also read. I ended up reading all of Michael Crichton's books because I was like, oh man, this is good, and this is good, and this is good. This is so much fun. I love these. I also loved Rising Sun. Nobody ever talks about that. I'm a
Oh,
Japanese American, right?
yeah,
And you
yeah.
would think like somebody might be like, "Oh, you probably don't like Rising Sun." I go, "No, I loved it. That was awesome." I please, like if you're a non-Japanese writer, but you have like a real keen interest in the subject matter of the culture and stuff, and you know
Hmm.
what you're talking about, like he
Hmm.
does, go for it, man. Write that stuff, and man, it's awesome. It was awesome to read, and I really enjoyed it. So, I also read, like younger in the younger days when I was younger, I read books like Shel Silverstein's books, and I was so super into the Phantom Tollbooth
Yeah.
when I first came upon that. It was really nice to I finally I got to meet Norton Jester and talk to him for a while, and we had a lot in common. That was really
Mhm.
interesting.
Wow.
Yeah, that's a good story too.
Did
the,
you
the Norton Chester one.
did you read like choose your own adventure books and things like that? Were you into that?
I always disliked choose your own adventure books.
Yeah, tell me why. That's interesting.
So, because like every single time, I'm a writer. I write stories and things like that. And even when I was a kid, I was writing stories, and I really was engaged with really good storytelling. Um, and the choose your own adventure is like it it derailed the meaning from a book when you could
Mm.
move from one thing to another. Like there wasn't the consequence of a specific path or a set of choices that were made because you're now making the choices,
Mm.
and you may have a consequence, but it doesn't feel real. It doesn't feel like, I'm not. I'm actually getting to see the result of the choice.
Mhm.
I'd rather imagine it. So it's like when I don't like I didn't want Legos with instructions. I
Yeah,
just
yeah,
wanted
yeah,
just give me the bricks,
yeah,
you know.
yeah.
And I think that I think a lot of kids are like that. I'm like one of those kids who just likes to have be somebody giving me something to build off of, to work
Mhm.
with and build off of, rather than telling me like how it's done. And so it was weird that a book that says choose your own adventure felt less like I was choosing my own adventure, and I was
Mm.
just like running through somebody's very particular maze,
Yeah.
and none of it had real like intrinsic value to it because it was just events that occurred. I don't learn anything
Right.
from a choose your own adventure book, and that's why I choose not to read choose your own adventure books.
I like what you did there. That was nice. uh, all right, here we go. Number five. Is there anything you don't like to draw?
I'm just like anybody else. I hate drawing horses. And until the last book, even though I am a big time cyclist, I have a hard time with bicycles too.
Mhm.
But I'm better at it now because I know how bicycles work. So I'm starting to enjoy bicycles. I still have not learned to enjoy drawing horses. They're really hard, and I'm not a fan.
I think that's funny because I was talking to some other cartoonists I think it was last week about horses, and everyone's just like horses.
I know, man. Horses, they're so hard. There's some people I know, like artist Alex Neonakis, who used to work with us. Her horses are incredible. So some people who
Wow.
love horses and are around horses, I think they can draw horses all day long. I just don't have that skill.
I bet there's a horse somewhere that doesn't like drawing you, Kazu.
Yeah, I don't want. Well, there's another one. I hate drawing me.
Oh,
Actually,
you don't like doing portraits
yes,
of
I
your.
hate drawing self portraits. If someone asks me for one, I'm like, oh gosh, that's like the they asked me to. Yeah, that's one of the things I really hate. I hate to do.
All right, so we won't have you draw yourself at the end of the
No, no, we're not
episode.
gonna draw me.
All right, number 6. Does your family enjoy your books?
Oh yeah, yeah. My kids are big fans, and they're
Hmm.
like first read editors on the books too, and they read a ton.
No.
They're big time readers. I mean, they read every all day long. I mean, my son wakes up at like 6 or 7 in the morning before
Mm.
everybody and just reads.
Wow.
You know, and so he's always reading. I mean, we don't push that stuff on him. He just likes books.
Hmm. Oh, that's
And we have
great.
plenty around. Yeah. He loved and he loved Leon. That was one of the that was a big one. I was like he actually came to me after he read that one. He's like, "This is really good."
Oh, wow. That's
He's
really
like, "I love this. This is
that's.
really really good." And I'll go,
Thank you.
"Yeah." Just wondering why it's not with a big publisher. Yeah, it
Here we
is.
go. No, that's really special. It's great to hear that. Thank you.
Yeah.
Um, Number 7. Would you want your kids to be artists? Why or why not?
I mean, I want them to have agency, so I want them to decide. If they decide to be artists, that's awesome, and they already do draw a lot. I don't
Hmm.
know where they're going to take it. Neither of them have it in their mind to be artists when they grow up.
Hmm.
My youngest, my daughter, she wants to be a paleontologist, so she wants
Wow.
to work with dinosaurs, and the older one wants to build robots. So we have to make sure that he's a good guy, and we tell him, be Doctor Light, not Doctor Wiley.
That's right. If you have to pick, be
Yeah,
Dr. Light.
yeah. Go make Mega Man, not the villains.
It's funny you said the paleontologist because it just made me think about the Jurassic Park
Oh
uh,
yeah.
line you just talked about. That's interesting.
Yeah, I think that's interesting. I guess we just had we made steam. Amy and I just made steampunk kids because
Hmm.
one wants to go into the future and one wants to go into the past.
I love it. Everybody has goggles on in your house.
Steampunk. Uh-huh.
Okay, let's try this one. Number 8. If you weren't an artist, what would you be doing right now?
I think I'd probably working in the field of architect. I would have stayed in architecture,
Hmm.
but not as an architect. I'd probably be doing real estate development. Just I would be a developer of a kind, probably
Hmm.
with a real focus on sustainable buildings and stuff. I really think I could have done a lot if I stayed doing that and to try to push for better sustainable designs. If I were pushing if I were on that track right now and working in build like still working around buildings and things like that, I would be really working on institutional architecture, like a real focus on trying to redesign schools. That
Wow.
and that I think is something that I want to do through my books too. So it's so I basically didn't land too far from what I probably would have been interested in. My
Hmm.
interest right now is um, to create better, early childhood and middle grade education. I think if we can get all that stuff lined up, I think we see a lot less problems in all these other fields. So, what drives me when I make my comics would probably drive me working in real estate and architecture, and I think I could have done that pretty well. So I imagine that's what I would have done.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
That's really exciting, and it's very selfless too. It's kind of like you would want a career where you're helping other people through your
Yeah.
hands in a way. Yeah.
Well, I mean, the things that I'm selfish about, like the things that I want for myself, can be attained fairly easily. I don't
Hmm.
really, just enough money to like live a decent and comfortable life, and my kids are having a good time and are happy and
Yeah.
stuff. I,
Yeah.
I, I don't want, I'm not into. I definitely didn't go into comics for both money and fame. I would have been a foolish kid if that was the case. And so I'm just like anybody else. I was doing it, back when it wasn't cool, right? So I mean, I just liked it. It's
Yeah.
a thing that I thought that had some value. I didn't understand it at the time how valuable it could be. But even as like I just talked about architecture and
Hmm.
development of real estate and various like commercial and residential real estate, and if you think about it, so much of like modern, um, um, like design, like architectural design and stuff for for the entertainment world comes from Disney. Walt Disney was a cartoonist as well, and so he developed all of that stuff. Like, I mean, so much of people's like minds are like probably molded by Disney,
Yeah, yeah.
right?
Hmm.
And what was he but a cartoonist,
Yeah.
Um, so it's interesting. In fact, here's an interesting tie-in to comics is that Bob Iger, who has probably been the most successful CEO, he has been the most successful CEO that Disney has ever had, right?
Hmm.
Bob Iger's uncle, I believe it's his uncle, worked with Will Eisner back
Wow.
in the day.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, Eisner and Iger was the Iger. Iger was Bob Iger's uncle. Yeah,
Wow. I never connected that. Yeah.
yeah, isn't that crazy? So, it's kind of stayed in the family, all that stuff, but it's all kind of built around cartoonists.
Oh, wow.
They start the ball rolling, and it becomes a big ball. And
Hmm.
if the early ball roller had a good plan, then the big ball, you know, rolls smoothly.
Yeah.
And that's like if you look at Miyazaki, it's the same thing. Except I think he's worked for years to shun the responsibility of becoming like a Tezuka, like a Disney.
Yeah.
He wanted to keep it small.
Hmm.
He's afraid of it becoming Disney.
Right.
I think
Right. Right.
of what he does. Yeah,
Well, we could do a
we could
whole
talk
other
about
episode about
it.
about Miyazaki. No, that's amazing.
Yeah.
All right, cool. Number 9. What would you tell a parent who didn't want their kid to become an artist?
Well, first off, they can come listen to one of my talks. They'd probably change their mind real fast. They'd be like,
Hmm.
"Oh my goodness, he just said Disney. Disney's everywhere.
Right.
That means my son is going to make a lot of money," which is terrible thing to. It's just a terrible way to get into it. By the way,
Yeah.
should not
Yeah.
have that. It should not have that expectation. But yeah, it's important. We need artists. Actually, we need artists. We need more artists than possibly ever because there's
Mhm.
so much happening in terms of quick lines of communication. Like we have so much fast talking, fast flashing information coming all over the place, and all of that has to be designed, and it is
Yeah.
being designed by people, and they're often being designed by artists that are very skilled and very fast at what they do. So you need really good artists who are really fast at what they do, but also have good heads on their shoulders, so they're not allowing the tools that they have at their disposal to be used for nefarious means.
Hmm.
It happens, and it's not because of people who are being evil or something like that. It's just human nature. People just
Yeah.
want to make money. They want the quick buck. They unintentionally hurt people because they didn't think things through. But if you have people who think things through and are creating things with their hands and their minds, and you have the creatives on board being your good guys essentially,
Yeah.
it can combat a lot of the communications errors that we see all over the world. I think a lot of the problems that we have right now are due to a lack of good communication.
Hmm.
I think it's almost in every case I could probably dial it down to this is bad communication. That's what's happening. People aren't talking to each other the right
Yeah.
way.
And just to add on to this one, have you had a lot of parents and guardians ask you questions like this? Say, I'm sure you've been in a place where a parent has their kid who wants to show you their work, right? Show
Yeah.
Mr. Kazu your drawings, and then in my head, I'm thinking the next question is, can you make money doing this? Should I tell him to stop? He really likes drawing. Is it okay? Like they're maybe asking for your recommendation or permission as a parent.
Yeah,
What?
that's true.
How do you?
They want my blessing, I suppose. And
Yeah, yeah.
um, you know, uh, I don't know. I imagine that even all these kids, these parents who talk about the money stuff, I think they don't. It's not. They're not after the money so much as some kind of a life security thing. Like they
Yeah,
want the kids to be okay.
yeah,
Even if
yeah.
they, that they're not destitute, that they're not, getting themselves into some kind of trouble. I think they don't want to see that. If they see, then they see me and me talking, and I sound like a doctor because I probably would have been. Otherwise, they're like, "Wow, like you can be like a doctor of comics and things like that, like Doctor Tezuka, right?"
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
But I I'm also really hesitant to well, first off, I love that when parents like that come to me, I get really happy
Yeah.
because it means they're taking their kids' vocation very seriously, and the thing that I want to see more of is making sure that those kids take their vocation seriously.
Hmm.
That they're not that they know the responsibility that they have in front of them, that they don't offload it onto a school or like a corporation that will hire them.
Hmm.
That artists need to stay as independent as they can manage to be. Sometimes you have to work with bigger companies and things
Yeah.
like that, but at the same time, it's really important that they maintain their creative control for the sake of the corporations that they work for the
Hmm.
sake of just people in general. I think artists need to stay independent, and that's a really hard thing to stay a whole to keep when you're young. Like you end up deferring, and
Yeah.
so with the parents become the first groups that that unintentionally start taking the agency away from their kids. And in
Hmm.
order to just hedge against the kids failing, but they don't know anything about the arts because maybe they're not artists.
Right.
So what they'll say is, "Well, I don't know anything about the arts, but I want to make sure that you make money. So let's have you go to an art school where you pay $60,000 a year to go to it."
Yeah.
But what if they can't afford that $60,000 a year, and now that kid's sitting, back with a tremendous amount of debt coming out of school? So he or she was probably not the best candidate to go to an art school, you
Hmm.
know. And I don't and the parents didn't know any better. Kids didn't know any better. They both ended up guiding themselves into a problem,
Hmm.
right? So so I'm always really really honest about that type of thing. Like if to step it back, make sure that the kids do have they have if they say, "Mom, Dad, I have to go to this art school," because they've already done the research and said, "This is the school I need to go to. This is what I
Hmm.
really want to do."
Hmm.
That's something to consider,
Yeah.
because that's they're gonna even if it's a mistake, at least they've made the choice, so they know they can feel it. They can feel
Right.
the mistake, so they can learn from it. But
Right.
if you send them there, then they're gonna blame you for that mistake if it
Wow.
becomes a mistake. You
That's
know what I
it's
mean?
spoken like a father.
Yeah, I'm a dad, but I
Mhm.
mean, my kids aren't in college yet, but
Right.
uh, I want to make sure that they know that they're in control of their lives. Like it's like what
Mhm.
we do with just like our cups and dishes. Like we're like, you take that to the sink, and
Mhm.
this is we make sure that they can get to their cups and dishes and things like that. And like you get your cups, you get your water, you get your stuff. We're not harsh. We're really soft on our
Yeah.
kids, relative to what I had to deal with. But
Right. I
yeah, but
bet.
but at the same time, you want to make sure that they never lose their agency.
Mhm. Well, that was a great answer. All right, last one, and you're off the hook. Number 10. Drawing is a lot of work, Heather. What do you like to do to relax? And you gave us a little snippet of that at the very beginning. What do you like to do when you're not in the middle of a project?
Well, the number one is spending time with my wife Amy. That's number one, and
Hmm.
number two, that's like right there at number one, pretty much, is being with the kids. I mean,
Hmm.
number one, that's just being with my family is number one. I don't care what we do, go to the
Yeah.
pumpkin patch, just just hang out. So that fills up almost all that space. Now there's no, I have to like also take care of my mental health, so I do sports mostly. A lot of people might go, "Hey, why are you spending all that time mountain biking?" Well, that helps me with my work. Like
Hmm.
when I climb like 3,500 feet and then like come flying down it on a mountain bike, that 3,000-foot climb feels like making a book.
Hmm.
Like for example, it's part of the process of this. It just gets my brain wired to like make my books. So I get on my bike and I start the climb, right? And this is gonna be like I'm like Tiger Mountain in Issaquah, Washington. It's like legendary for like it's a burly climb, amazing downhill. But you always hit a wall probably the first 5 minutes, 10 minutes. After 15 minutes, you hit this wall and you're like, oh my goodness, knowing that I have to do this for another hour or something up the mountain, um, I don't know if I can handle it. You
Yeah.
feel it in your gut, but that's because your body's in a bit of shock because
Hmm.
you're not doing that every day, and all of a
Right.
sudden your body's like, "Whoa, hey, whoa,
Wait a
you're what are
second.
you doing?" And we're like, "We're gonna do this for the next hour and a half, 2 hours. We're gonna climb a mountain for 2 hours," and
Mhm.
your body's like, "No way." And the thing is, your body gets used to it. You
Mhm.
have to just like work past it, and eventually it gets used to it. And it's the same with making a graphic novel, because when you know, like for me, the second half of the climb, I don't even think about it. It's like it becomes unconscious. I'm just
Right.
doing it, you know.
Right.
Whereas like with graphic novels, it's similar. That first half is so hard. You can never judge yourself based on the speed it takes to make the first half of your book.
Hmm.
You got to judge it by the whole thing. That means you got to complete it. So if you don't complete a graphic novel, then you don't know what it's like to make one,
Hmm.
because you're going to have the wrong idea. That first half is harder because you are creating the problem.
Right.
The second half, you're answering the problem. It's much easier to answer questions that are there than to devise questions that you will answer later. Much
Mm.
harder. So remember that there's an uphill climb. And what do I do to do that? I go mountain biking. It reminds me
Mm.
every time, kicks my butt.
Wow.
That first half, I'm like, oh, here it is again. Okay, this is just like the writing process. Just get through it and then just keep going. And then when I get back home and like I feel great for one, mentally I'm great. I'm doing well.
Hmm.
I sit down and I start working and I'm like just like it's like nothing. Come on, just do it. Just get over it. Put some boxes in there. Fill those boxes. Let's go.
I love it. Wow. Well, thank you so much, Kazu. I thought we'd have some time to draw, but we're out of time.
We're out of time.
We're out of
Well, this
time.
you don't nobody needs to see me draw right here. Everyone, you should be drawing. Go draw something. Draw anything.
That's right, you guys. Get to drawing.
Yeah,
Kazu, this has been great. Thank you so much, and thanks for
absolutely.
answering these 10 questions. I hope you like my questions.
I did. I do. I like them. It was good. Thanks, Jamar, and congratulations on Leon. And I'm really just I'm excited to see what's in store.
Oh, thank you, brother. I appreciate that.
Yeah.
And thank everybody for hanging out with us for 30 minutes. There's more programming to come, so hang out and see what happens next at the Kids Love Comics area of the Baltimore Comic Con online. Thanks a
Very
lot.
good.
We'll see you in a
All
little
right.
bit.
Bye.
Bye bye.